Hi there. Welcome to the sanctuary. As you can see, this is the most important part of the church. We can tell that by a few different things. So first off, the flooring is a different color, gray versus just regular white. It's also raised up higher so that everyone can see very easily what's in it. And then finally, it has all of the most expensive things in our church. So we're going to talk about three things in this sanctuary. We're going to talk about a stand, a table, and a box. And so we're going to process first to the stand to see what's going on over there. So after the priest prays the opening prayer of the Mass, right, everyone gets to sit down, mercifully. And what do we do with the first part of the Mass? We read from the Bible. First we read from the Old Testament, and then we read from the New Testament. The Old Testament being the history of Israel, and the New Testament being the stories of Jesus' life. Now those stories of Jesus' life are called the Gospels. Gospels, right? And there's four of them: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now Jesus is obviously pictured in the middle of our mosaic on this stand that we call an ambo, right? So he's holding out his hand in blessing, and then he has a book right here, which we know is the Bible, right? But he's surrounded by four creatures. You can see two on this side, and there's two on the other side as well. You have a man with wings, a lion with wings, a bull with wings, like a cow, but a male cow, and an eagle with wings. Each of the four of those represent the four evangelists, those who wrote the Gospels, Jesus' disciples who recorded his life for future generations. And we place them here next to where we read about those stories so that we can make that connection in our minds. Now for parents listening at home that might be curious and haven't seen the bulletin announcement or whatnot, why are they the animals that they're pictured, right? Well, each of the symbols is associated with how each gospel begins. So Matthew's gospel begins with the genealogy of men, and so pictured as a man. Mark's gospel begins in the desert with John the Baptist crying out, almost like a lion. St. Luke's gospel begins in the temple of Jerusalem with Zechariah the priest performing a sacrifice, therefore a bull. And then finally, St. John begins his gospel with "In the beginning was the Word," a very high theology, a theology that sort of sees with a bird's eye view, if you will. So each of these represents the four evangelists, and we picture them here in the place where we read about Jesus' life. Now, finally, as a part of the liturgy of the Word, the priest explains, hopefully somewhat decently, what the readings have to do with our Christian life and how we're supposed to lead it out. But then after that, we transition to the rest of the Mass. So this big stone table that we have in the middle of our church is called an altar. Can you say that with me? Altar. A-L-T-A-R. It is a table meant for sacrifice specifically. And ultimately, its purpose and what happens on it is the celebration of the Eucharist, when by the priest's words and the power of God, the bread and the wine that we put inside of the bowl and the cup, the ciborium and the chalice, are transformed into being the body and blood of Jesus. We believe that these are truly the presence of Christ in our midst, and so we have a very special table on which to perform that action. Now you'll notice that in the church, as I said before, all the most valuable things are up here in the sanctuary. Between the mosaics that were on the ambo, the mosaic work that's done on the altar, and then the stone that the altar is made of, we can tell this is a very valuable and a very important piece of furniture, right? This is made of marble, and if your parents were to decorate their house all in marble, it would cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. It would also be very cold or very hot, depending on the time of year. We also have gold candle stands, gold mosaics up there. We can tell that this is meant to be a a place of great reverence and respect because we're worshiping God here. Now at the end of Mass, after the priest and all of the other ministers distribute communion, right? That's what you're preparing for, First Holy Communion. Once they distribute communion to all the parishioners, they come back and there's normally some leftovers, right? Those leftover hosts, or what looks like pieces of bread, we then place in our third object that we're going to talk about next, the big golden box back there. So once we collect the rest of the leftovers into the large ciborium, we bring all of that back and place it in this box that we call a tabernacle. You want to say that with me? Tabernacle, right? Tabernacle is just a Hebrew word for dwelling place or house. And so who lives here, right? Jesus. Jesus, who was made present on the altar, then dwells, he lives, he resides here in this tabernacle all day long, all year round, to be present to us so that we can come and pray to him, right? And you know that he is present because of one important detail in this area. Can you think of it? Do you have any ideas? If you guessed the red candle to the right of the tabernacle, you would be right. So this red candle is called a sanctuary candle. Sanctuary, right, being the name of this whole space, the holy place. And every time that it's lit next to a tabernacle, you know that Jesus is present. Just like if you were to go to someone's house, your friend's house, and see that the lights were on, you would immediately assume, my friend's home, right? So you can go to any church anywhere throughout the world, and immediately you can know that Jesus is present in that church if there is a tabernacle and a red light next to it. Now, two things that I will mention about what happens at every single Mass that we celebrate. There are two groups of people who are invisible, but who are very much present in our Mass. The first is the angels, and that's why above the tabernacle, we included this mosaic of the 9 choirs of angels. They're invisible, of course, but they're always worshiping God in heaven and worshiping God here on earth. And the second is the saints. Now, I forgot to mention this earlier, but this is a good time to mention it. Why not, right? There is a box underneath the altar. You might have seen it. It's sort of reddish, brownish in color. And inside is what's known as relics of the saints. Now, these are small reminders of their presence, either the clothes that they wore when they were alive, or even maybe a small piece of their body, bone specifically, that remind us of their presence. And we know that when relics are present here, that those saints are praying for us. So saints like Blaise, saints like Francis of Assisi, Teresa of Avila, John Vianney, Philomena, and there's always one more that I totally forget. All of those saints in particular are praying for us here at Lumen Christi. So this is the sanctuary. There's much more we could talk about, but for now we'll leave it there.